Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. It's rather warm again here after that brief flurry of rain which apparently came from the forests and the rivers of the DR Congo. And I remember being in Kinshasa once in this extraordinary rainstorm, and you could feel the vibration in the room and in your body as you lay in that room. And it was a little bit like that a few days ago. This photograph of Barack Obama has been going around the internet skydiving, and I thought to myself, matters geopolitical, and Barack Obama from a frontier being thousands of feet up in the sky. Very much looking forward to hosting His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, former President of the Republic of Ghana, 2012 to 2017 at Mindspeak this Saturday. Do come, it's going to be a great function, and there's so much to discuss, not only Ghana itself, about which I'm bullish, but also ECOWAS's intervention, which was very much at the imprimatur of Buhari and of President Mahama, and many other things. So looking forward to that this Saturday. If you want a flavour of what is Mindspeak, there's a link that we've got up there on video called What is Mindspeak. The inspiration for Mindspeak came via those words I saw in Konya. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come yet again, come, come. Macro thoughts. Trump called Mike Flynn at 3 a.m. to ask him whether a strong or weak dollar is good for the economy, the Huffington Post is saying. President Trump was confused about the dollar. Was it a strong one that's good for the economy or a weak one? So he made a call, except not to any of the business leaders Trump brought into his administration, or even to an old friend from his days in real estate. Instead, he called his national security advisor, retired Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, according to two sources familiar with Flynn's accounts of the incident. Flynn has a long record in counterintelligence, but not in macroeconomics, and he told Trump he didn't know, that it wasn't his area of expertise, that perhaps Trump should ask an economist instead. Trump was not thrilled with that response, but that may have been a function of the time of day. Trump had placed the call at 3 a.m., according to one of Flynn's retellings, although neither the White House nor Flynn's office responded to requests for confirmation about that detail. It's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? Each day, the drama of it all is amazing. General Mike Flynn is the repository, I asked, of FX knowledge in the Trump administration when you have Goldman Sachs on speed dial. And I further conclude it's just remarkable. This is a chart from Bloomberg of the Russian ruble. Remember, before everything happened, it was around 30 to the dollar. Probably got more room for improvement still. Home thoughts. Every word is like an unnecessary stain on silence and nothingness. Sandwich Beckett. I was in the Saharan this morning as I was there yesterday, and I took this photograph of the garden. It's a very lovely garden. Some mature trees, and you hear background noise of the city around you. You hear birdsong sitting in that garden. And it feels as if I've decamped to the Saharan of late. I was there yesterday with Sunny Bindra for John Kay's engagement ahead of a lecture he's delivering tomorrow evening. He's been sponsored by the Financial Sector Deepening Organization, and very interesting. And his book is about other people's money. And in it, he's taking a more Volckerian approach to finances. And I said to him, you know what, that is over now. Just look at the share price of Goldman Sachs. That's telling you basically the banksters are back. and it's a whole new world again. Or is it back to an old world that I remember from my younger days? The brutal truth is that from a future historians remove, our present moment isn't unique. Political Reflections Donald Trump paper tiger, says Bloomberg View. Oh yes, Trump is clearly capable of tweeting all sorts of nasty things about those he considers his enemies. He won't address their arguments. He'll level petty personal attacks. No doubt those aren't any fun to deal with. And yet, where's the evidence of serious political damage, either from Trump attacks or from Trump voters rallying to their hero? Contrary to Trump's braggadocio about revenge, the reality seems to be that he doesn't have enough of an attention span to really pursue his enemies. And he's so susceptible to flattery that anyone who really wants to shake the president's anger can't find it very difficult to do so. In fact, I think these two maps will change how you think about the journeys of migrants and refugees. Africa seems to be at the epicenter of it all. Twitter accounts really are echo chambers, as study finds. Political birds of a feather flock together, with Twitter users tending to communicate with those whose views match their own, says Demos Research. Interesting. Currency markets euro dollar 106.47, dollar index moving away from that key level of 99.50, now at 100.51. Japanese yen 112.23, Swissy 0.9990, the pound 124.81, Aussie 0.7626, India rupee 67.305, South Korean 111.4853. The Real 312.04, Egyptian pound 18.3280, and the Rand, by which I'll come to in a second, has been softening up at 13.50. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. You can see we came back, we tested, we even went through that level I was talking about, 99.50, but we've moved back up again. Dollar yen, I'll put up a 1-year chart. Look at that. All over the place. Sears Holding went public on the 9th of May 2003. Returns since then, Amazon plus 2,568%. Sears minus 39%. Apple, if you'd invested $10,000 at its IPO, was worth less than $10,000 at the end of 1997. Today it's worth over $3 million. Greece's 2-year yields top 10% amid a standoff with the IMF and the EU. Gold has been on a roll at late 1233, but of course Bitcoin has been as well. I'll go and have a look at that spread, which I recommended, long Bitcoin, short gold, next time. But gold has been strong. Let me put up a chart you can see. Oil, however, had a bad day yesterday. As I said, I do not see WTI trading above $60 under any circumstance through 2017. Have a look at this 1-year chart and you can see the sharp sell-off yesterday. Let's move on to Africa. Eleni Giokos, who's a good friend, is now at CNN, was in Nairobi a few days ago, and we did an interview, and she did a series of interviews here, and we've just put out a report on CNN, President Trump silent on Africa. Trump's views on Africa remain largely a mystery. 2 weeks into his presidency, and Trump has rattled many relationships, from upsetting Asian trading partners to rocky relations with Mexico, and the latest banning people from 7 countries from entering the United States, included 3 African nations, Libya, Sudan, and Somalia, where there's an election today. The Trump administration's views on Africa remain largely a mystery. Ronak Gopal Das, who's country risk manager for the Rand Merchant Bank, says Africa is not likely to feature strongly on the priority agenda unless there's a return on investment. And we know Donald Trump is a businessman. That's the paradigm he uses. Africa's economic and geopolitical value will depend on that perception. Different approach by his predecessor Obama, who initiated the $7 billion Power Africa plan. George Bush had PEPFAR, billions to fight AIDS and tuberculosis. In fact, Bush was largely considered the biggest contributor to Africa. I said some African leaders think it's a get-out-of-jail-free card. Tillerson and Trump won't be focusing on human rights, they'll be focusing on other interests. I also said we're expecting Trump to be transactional, business-minded, and all about counter-terrorism. But AGOA, in my view, remains important. US-Africa trade totaled $37 billion in 2015, down around 30% from the previous year, falling behind China and Europe. Najib Balala says Africa needs to reflect. It's the right time with all the new challenges in the world. Saying that the US is taking a more insular view, it seems Africa might do some inward reflecting of its own. Bob Collymore, because of poor leadership for decades and because businesses and governments have colluded to leave people behind, that is why we ended up with this kind of leadership. And Donald Trump is not the only one. Africa needs to be more self-sufficient as a continent. We import everything. The continent imports 30% of the food that it eats, despite having 60% of the arable land in the world. And that's Eleni's report. There's a video, do take a look. Fueled by bribes, Somalia's election seen as a milestone of corruption, says the New York Times. Politicians have been peeling off wads of $100 bills to buy votes. Others have shown up for parliamentary races standing next to a political nobody who was bribed or coerced into running against them to make the race look fair. In one case, the mysterious candidate was the politician's maid. This week, Somalia, which has languished without a functioning central government for more than 25 years, and has been propped up by billions of dollars of American aid, is holding an innovative, closely watched presidential election that United Nations officials have billed as a milestone. Several analysts, investigators, and some Western diplomats say the election has turned out to be a milestone of corruption, one of the most fraudulent political events in Somalia's history. And that's saying something, given that the country is already ranked by Transparency International as the most corrupt on earth. Outside forces like Turkey, Sudan, the UAE, and Qatar are widely believed to be buying off presidential candidates to land juicy business deals and spread a harsh version of Islam or spy on American forces. The entire process has been so bad, several analysts said, that the Shabab militant group, one of the deadliest Islamist organizations in the world, isn't even trying to derail the vote because the corruption free-for-all makes the militants look upstanding by comparison. The president's a hyena, said Mohammed Said Mohammed, a fish seller by the crumbled seashore. These guys are taking bribes of $100,000 when most of us can't afford a plate of spaghetti. Food is a big worry right now. Somalia is headed into a drought which could lead to a famine this spring. I heard an estimate that $20 million has been spent. I reckon it's at least 10x and probably a lot higher even than that. The Somali capital is on security lockdown before the presidential election. Reuters Africa, EXX Africa, Angola government to seek almost $20 billion in funding from the already distressed domestic banking sector. I don't know how they propose to do that. President Zuma apparently has deployed 400 soldiers at his state address. South African all shares up 3.02% this year. But reports, and I saw one from the Rand Daily Mail, that President Zuma is looking to deal with Pravin Gordhan. I think that would be a step too far. The Rand has already softened and will get that very, very bad outcome. I can't believe President Zuma is going to have a go at this. I really can't. Dollar versus Rand has softened up, as you can see, 13.50. Egyptian pound, 18.325. BBC Africa. The media advisor says he is sick. The VP says he is hale and hearty. And now the senator says he's just tired. Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari's economic plan could be make or break for Nigeria, says Bloomberg. Buhari's economic blueprint for the next 4 years is due to be released this month. This is the last opportunity, said Ayodele Akinwumi, head of research at Lagos-based FSDH Merchant Bank. It has taken them 2 years to develop a plan. I don't want to believe it won't work, otherwise it will be total failure for this government. Nigeria all-share down 5.31%. Ghana Stock Exchange up 5.83% this year. A scenic view of Lake Kivu from Nyashameke district. Lovely photograph. Ethiopian Airlines is unable to repatriate about $220 million held in local currency in Nigeria, Egypt, and some other African states. This has been a big challenge for a lot of multinationals. Madonna has been granted permission to adopt 2 children from Malawi. Coming to Kenya, for Uhuru to win, he needs 2 key voting blocks. One such block is facing a lot of antagonism. This is the Rift Valley. This is Bloomberg. For Uhuru to win, he needs 2 key voting blocks. This is the Rift Valley. In 2017, it's not looking like he'll get this block the way he got it in 2013. While Ruto was able to deliver a lion's share of the Rift Valley vote in the 2013 election, his contribution this year will be reduced by a material margin. This time his support will reduce significantly by as much as a third because he's not been able to build a consensus among the leaders of the community in the Rift Valley. And he has created unnecessary political enemies. There will be 4 counties of the 14 in the Rift Valley that will cause a challenge for the Deputy President. I foresee Moi's son and Isaac Ruto finding some fusion in the South Rift and working together against the Deputy President. The question is whether they will ultimately vote against Uhuru in the election. The opposition to win this election needs to coalesce behind an Adama Barrow figure, somebody who everyone can get behind, and leverage a type of 2008 Obama vintage strategy. You'll remember the audacity of how President Obama said, "I serve as a blank screen on which people of vastly different political stripes project their own views," and that's why you need this sort of candidate. And the opposition leaders, all of them, have to stand down effectively. Kansai Paint agrees to buy African businesses. Japan's Kansai Paint has agreed to buy 3 East African paint companies to tap into one of the world's fastest growing regions as part of its global expansion. Kansai Plascon Africa is to acquire Saddle in Kenya, Saddle in Uganda, and Saddle in Tanzania. Although it would not reveal how much the deal would be worth, but people with knowledge of the purchases said it would be the largest corporate acquisition in East Africa for more than 2 years. Estimated 2016 combined revenues of the East African companies, which are owned by a conglomerate of regionally based families, were $87 million. Amid slowing growth in Japan, Hiroshi Ishino, president of Kansai Paint since 2013, has promised to expand the company through acquisitions into one of the top 3 coatings groups in the world. We're looking at Africa's middle class, increased infrastructure spending, and the paint business is relevant across all sectors. Yes, there will be short-term hiccups, but we're in for the long haul. So that's interesting. I said, that there'll be more of this kind of activity in the region. A lot of family-owned businesses have maxed out, or they've got aging leadership, and need investment to take them to the next level. I wrote about Japan's entry into Africa, re-entry into Africa at the time of the TCAD conference, and I said the Japanese have, in my opinion, made the decision to get into this deal now. That can only be a good thing for Africa. And then, of course, I attended that conference, and I remember Abe Shinzo famously saying Japan bears the responsibility of fostering the confluence of the Pacific and the Indian Oceans. I like this photograph, good morning from Meru. My piece over the weekend was connecting the dots, food prices, the weather in Laikipia, and I learned yesterday that the Laikipia West OCPD has been rushed to a hospital after being shot in an operation to drive away illegal grazers who had invaded the Kifuko Ranch. Kenya shilling 103.795. Nairobi all share couldn't make it 6 up sessions in a row. marginally down yesterday. It's down 6.25% year to date. NSE 20 down 9.52% year to date. This, if it can close out, will be the 7th winning session. If you could read French, I gave an interview with Bruno Meyerfeld of Le Monde of Afrique about the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I'd like to thank Raman Yang for the interview on CGTN yesterday about the NSE, Buhari, the Naira, that kind of thing. Kenya's retail spending hit 1.8 trillion shillings in 2016 as the sector expanded by 13%, a new survey by Procter & Gamble shows. And banks get Central Bank of Kenya backing to launch their own mobile cash transfer system. Once again, thank you kindly for stopping by. It's thoroughly appreciated.